So I think honestly, having more people being vocal about what it's like to be in the LGBTQ community and be around hockey would be really helpful. For me, I know, like, I trust my teammates, I trust my coaches, that kind of things. But once I start working more in the professional sphere, it makes me question, how much of my identity do I feel comfortable sharing right now? I am Jenna Van Sickle. I'm going to be a junior in the fall at Boston University. I play on their women's club team as a forward and a goalie. I also work with the athletic department there as a photographer and content intern. I'm originally from Minnesota, so I'm a huge Leafs. I'm a huge Wild fan, but I'm also a Leafs fan. Don't know how that happened. And I just happen to be bi. So yeah.
Very cool. All of it super, super cool. How did Jenna get into hockey?
So growing up in Minnesota, it kind of seems inevitable, the whole state of hockey thing. I'm a younger sister. My brother played when I was growing up, and I always thought it was the coolest. So I wanted to do everything like him. And I joined a team when I was pretty little. Always wanted to be a goalie, but my mom was pretty hesitant there. I remember I was like one of two girls on the team, and I really wasn't feeling it. I felt pretty isolated there, so I ended up trying out basketball instead. And then later in life, I always went to my brother's games and watched Wild games with family, went to games, but it wasn't a huge thing for me until kind of high school. I got really back into being a fan, really found that I wanted to be either a sports journalist or work in sports social media. And then once I got into BU, I was super excited because they have great hockey teams that I could work with. And I actually got a DM on Instagram asking me if I wanted to play on the club team. And I was like, I hope you know I really am not the best skater. And they were like, sure, go for it. Like, you can join, you can be a forward. This year I ended up in net somehow. So it's been kind of a lifelong thing, but really recently has been a big part of my life.
That's super cool. I'm a goalie, so I appreciate goalies, and it's not easy, especially if you're starting, a little later at it. So it's super, super neat.
Yeah.
What do you love about hockey?
I love a lot about hockey. I think for me, obviously, it all started being a big part of my family. I have a lot of childhood memories of going to games and watching my brother and being, bribed with the promise of concession stand hot chocolate and the family camera to go take pictures at his games. And for me, I really found hockey to be the place where I could kind of put all my passions together. I really love sports. I'm been a lifelong athlete, but I also really like being creative. So as hockey is a passion of mine, it's also what I want my career to be. So it's kind of where everything has come together. And it's just a huge part of my identity now.
That's wonderful. Based off your intersection of identities, how could hockey be better for you? And also, how could it be better for the queer community as a whole?
So I will say I definitely recognize that I come from a place of it, a pretty like advantaged place. I have a lot of privilege. I'm lucky enough to be on a team that is super open and accepting. We play because we want to play, not because we're trying to, become D1 or anything. Everyone's there and putting in the time because they want to. But I do think, especially with wanting to go into hockey as a career, I'm very aware that there aren't many out people around hockey. You really have to kind of look for them, especially, if you're trying to look for players or people who are really at the forefront of the media. So I think, honestly, having more people being vocal about what it's like to be in the LGBTQ community and be around hockey would be really helpful. For me, I know, like, I trust my teammates, I trust my coaches, that kind of things. But once I start working more in the professional sphere, it makes me question, how much of my identity do I feel comfortable sharing right now? Because, especially with the big professional leagues, there's always that kind of controversy. I don't want my identity to be something that hinders my career. But I'm proud of who I am. So it's kind of that battle, if that makes sense.
It totally does. In knowing that it's not necessarily a comfortable place yet to share totally who you are, especially on the professional side in your professional career, what keeps you in the sport?
I think what keeps me in the sport is seeing the progress, as slow as it sometimes is. I really want to be a part of it. And I think that because I have an identity that I don't necessarily, you don't look at me and you're like, oh yeah, she's bi. I mean, you might, but it's not like something, it's not my skin. It's not something to that degree where I know that I can be part of the change, and I want to make hockey more inclusive, and I want to make it more inviting, because there are parts of the culture and there are, subgroups of people who are super creative and super outspoken and active, but feel disconnected from the general kind of fan base, or are too afraid to kind of start playing because they feel like it's too late. They didn't have the traditional introduction. And I feel like coming from where sometimes I feel like I totally 100% fit into the sport. And then there are other days where I really feel like disconnected from the community. I think I can use my own experiences to really help others.
That makes a lot of sense. And that privilege that you talk about, right? And using that privilege to uplift others who may have less and create spaces for them. I think that's so spot on. What gives you hope for queer people in the sport moving forward?
I think what gives me hope is, wow, that's, let me think about this for a second. I guess what gives me hope is just seeing all the progress just kind of across the board in the world, and just seeing that change is possible. And even if it feels like there's not change necessarily happening right now in hockey, that it's possible, and that there are people out there that want that change to happen. I think it's really easy to kind of, get down on yourself and think, hockey culture is always going to be the way it is. But if I really believed that hockey culture couldn't change, I wouldn't love the sport. I wouldn't do what I do. I would leave it alone and probably, I don't know, start liking something else. I don't know. Hockey is too big of a part of my life for me to really know what it would be. But I just have this belief that there can be change, and there are people that want change. And yeah.
So good. So true. And we need that hope, right? Jenna, is there anything you'd like to
add? Yeah. So I was a little bit nervous going into this interview because, full disclosure, I am the kind of person that if you asked me, I would be 100% comfortable, sharing my identity. I am bisexual, but I never have done the traditional like coming out thing. So this project is sort of a way for me to just finally be publicly out to the people that I haven't directly told, including my parents, who are downstairs right now as I record this. So this is a pretty big deal for me, and it's something I'm excited about and passionate about. But yeah, a little bit nervous.
Well, first, congratulations.
Thanks.
Secondly, I'm incredibly proud of you. Living your truth and living as your authentic self is the most powerful thing as a human being that you can do. And there's a weight that will be lifted off your shoulders. And it's freeing and liberating in a way that we don't even know is possible. If you need anything at all, when this comes out or between now and then, do not hesitate to reach out. And you're going to see the amount of love and support that this community has. And we are a large community, and we are loving and beautiful. And I'm so grateful that you're a part of it.
Thank you.